sobre animaciones en SVG. A mí esta charla me gusta especialmente porque cuando salió SVG, cuando empezaron las primeras recomendaciones de SVG, que no sé, yo lo debo haber leído, no sé, por ahí en el 2005, 2006, se veía como lo máximo, era como, bueno, y es algo que viene de la W3C y es la manera de hacer gráficos vectoriales en la web y es lo que nosotros le decíamos y cuando alguien venía y te decía de usar Flash, le decías, no, vamos a usar SVG porque va a estar buenísimo. Y bueno, y los browsers no eran lo que son ahora y el predominio de Internet Explorer y bla, 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 bla. Entonces por años SVG era una cosa que era... bueno, un poco como una utopía si quieren. Bueno, gráficos vectoriales en la web y estándar y accesibles y bla, bla, bla. Me gusta esta charla, es que nosotros ganamos y que ahora es un estándar y es accesible y se puede usar, y de eso se trata la charla de Julia, y que los de Flash perdieron. Entonces siento que esto es una charla donde, bueno, es una victoria, ¿no? Tardaron muchos años en llegar, pero bueno, de alguna manera ganamos. Y realmente lo que es interesante porque también es como, bueno, viene de otra época, pero soluciona problemas que tenemos hoy. Por ejemplo, si uno tiene un sitio que tiene que empezar a sacar assets de diferentes resoluciones, porque bueno, si entran con retina, si entran desde una computadora, si entran desde... bueno, esto cuando salió la especificación de SVG, esto no era un problema, pero hoy es un problema. Entonces, si uno puede hacer un solo asset que funciona para retina, que funciona para los desktop, bueno, es espectacular. Entonces, los dejo con Julia, que da la charla y... los felicito, creo que esto es un éxito de todos nosotros. Así que bueno, va con Julia.
Great. Thank you very much. So I'm Julia Smith. I'm a Knight Mozilla Fellow at the Center for Investigative Reporting. And lately what I've been doing a lot of is data visualization and making interactive graphics. And what I'm going to talk about today is animating data. So data visualizations are great. They're a lot of fun, and they work really well because people are inherently visual. We understand this, a basic line chart, a lot better than we understand a table that we actually have to read, and we understand a table a lot better than we understand the data that actually goes into it. So data visualizations can show trends, and they can show relationships, like this one between Congress members and their PAC contributions. And they can clarify information by highlighting certain things and showing trends over time. And they can tell a story. This is an example from the Washington Post that visualizes where data is missing. And sometimes they can tell stories better with animation. So there's two types of animation, two places where animation comes into play. One is that animations can enhance the user interface, and the other is that they can enhance the data itself. So enhancing the UI, that's things like creating visual transitions between states, providing visual feedback to the user, such as like hover states and making sure your selections are visible. And then they can guide the user, so they can take the user from one step to the next in a nice, smooth way. And then for enhancing the data, they can do things like illustrate change. They can enhance the relationships between different views of data. They can provide context, and they can create an emotional response. So now I'll go through a couple examples that I found that I think do a good job. So illustrating change. This is an example from the Tampa Bay Times. And overall, it's really great in that it just guides you straight through. It's from a user interface perspective, it's very intuitive. But my favorite thing about it is this. Because it gives you instructions, it tells you exactly what the data is showing in a step-by-step way. So it really describes in detail how these schools have become more segregated over time, and it pulls out the ones that are the worst. It makes it really easy to see. A great one that shows how animation can enhance relationships is this one from the New York Times. And this is great because it shows the same data from different views, but the way it animates it ties it all together. So that looks like a basic line chart, whereas that is much more interesting. Thanks, New York Times. So you can see data from different dimensions all in the same sort of format without losing any sort of context, which is awesome. Another example of enhancing relationships is this one. This shows the racial divide in different US cities. But what's cool about this is it starts, let's see if it goes, with the city and then it explodes, which exaggerates the divide between different counties as far as their racial makeup. But what I like about the animation is that initially you get the full context. You see the state or the city exactly as it's laid out geographically, and then it animates the change between states. So again, it keeps context. And another example for context is this one from ProPublica. And this one, the animation is really pretty simple. Like, it's just a fading transition between past and present views. But right here, you can see this historical map laid over as it existed in Louisiana, as it existed in 2014. But just the back and forth there, you get to see the changes really clearly, and the animation helps smooth that transition. And then for creating an emotional response, this is an experiment that I put together about US mass shootings in the United States since 1982. So I'll pull this one up. And I'm going to start in the middle just for time's sake. It has audio too, so we'll see how this works. And so what this is showing is each incident of a mass shooting and the number of fatalities that occurred. And so from the animation, you can see the timeline animate as well as the individual falling off the screen. And so at that point, you're just left with all the people that are no longer with us, which I think is a pretty powerful way to display that data. And so, all right, and then the next example is from Polygraph. This is just kind of a fun one. So this is visualizing Spotify data about the most popular songs. And it has a couple great things about it. One, all the scrolling with the animation is nice. That one was a little jumpy. But the way it triggers the animation is really smooth. It's really nice from a visual UI perspective. And then also the change in animation is kind of fun. And I think it enhances the experience rather than detracts. And that's all I have for you today. So, thank you. The workshop was yesterday. Thanks for coming.